Experience, we're live, as you can tell by our baffled expressions. It's Sunday, March 22nd, 2009. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week's Don Baker. The music you were supposed to hear, you didn't hear, and now there's other music, but they got the titles right, so there's a Beatles song in the introduction.
They faked us out.
Whatever. I'm not really bothered by it. So how's everybody doing? Welcome back. We're still streaming over the internet, and I'll get to that in a minute. But, you know, this show's been on for over 11 years.
Wow.
Or over 10 years, coming up on 11.
I think we're very close to 11.
And the ACA's been around for 11. And, you know, over those years, there have been a lot of people involved, been a lot of people hosting, co-hosting, guests, and producers. And I am grateful to all of them. And by the way, have you got the camera set up for the people in the booth? Mm-hmm. You know, but maybe not. Yeah. Maybe they haven't done that yet. There we go. Yeah, see, and there's John and Frank and Shelley and all those. But I have to give a special shout out to Frank, who is the frickin' man, because he's the reason that the people are able to watch on the stream. He's the reason we got this nifty green screen.
No, we don't have a green screen. We're broadcasting from the moon.
No, we're not. And we can do all kinds of stuff like that. Anyway, but big thanks to Frank and all the people that work on the show. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I know some people have been, you know, why can't you guys just get a new speaker? Why does that thing keep breaking? Well, okay, I went out and bought one, but the thing you have to realize is that we're working in a public access studio. There's limits. I mean, we can't just go fixing stuff and replacing it. But we actually...
As much as we'd like, awesome.
Yeah, we actually went ahead and got a speaker, so that shouldn't be a problem. We'll see. So we're live. How is everybody? I already asked that.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Cool. I'm all right, actually. This is a live interactive public access television program sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin. The website for the ACA is at the bottom of your screen right now. You can go to www.atheist-community.org for more information about the group. There's frequently asked questions page. There's links to Yahoo and discussion lists, email lists. There'll be notices up about all the various events that we do. And we do quite a bit, actually. In addition, by the way, the audio portion of this program is available as a download. You can go to the Atheist Experience website for more information about the show. It's www.atheist-experience.com. It's available as a download. It's available as a podcast. The video portion is uploaded to Google. Then there's clips that are chopped out by fans and thrown up on YouTube. And we stream it live every week now over Ustream. There's the link right there. Ustream.tv/channel/the-atheist-experience. So you can tune in live from all around the world, which means some of you get to stay up very, very, very late, and some of you get to get up very early. But we're grateful to all of you that tune in and watch. In addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors a bi-weekly internet audio podcast called The Nonprofits. That's PROPHETS. And you can go to nonprofitsradio.com for more information. We were live yesterday with Dennis Lubay, myself, Schilling Russell, and Jeff D. Joining us to discuss some kind of leftover from Jeff's appearance on the Atheist Experience the week before. Nonprofits is every other week, so there's no Nonprofits this coming Saturday. The next one will be 2 weeks from Saturday, and I don't have a calendar in front of me, so you figure it out. In addition to, it's crickets. All right. I'm not funny today, and I'm not going to try to be funny.
Okay.
This is serious stuff. In addition to both of the media outreach programs the ACA does, we also host a number of events throughout the week and throughout the year, including Atheist Happy Hour every Thursday at the Dog and Duck Pub beginning around 7 o'clock. That's located at the corner of 17th and Guadalupe. The ACA has weekly meetings every Sunday at Romeo's on Barton Springs Road beginning around 11:30, except for the first Sunday of the month when we host a lecture series at the Austin History Center located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. And we won't have a lecture for April. And the May lecture is actually going to be elections. ACA elects board of directors once a year. And so if you're a member of the ACA, you need to stop by the website. You can check out the new newsletter and other things. We're going to be getting information out. We need people to show up, to vote, to run for office. But the other thing is that you only get to vote if you're actually a member, and membership expired for ACA members at the end of February. So March 1st was the renewal time. And so unless you're a life member, you might want to.
And you can renew online now.
Yeah. All the information about that and the groups are online. The podcast, the video links, everything you can go and download and watch. I don't have any other big announcements outside of that.
It's a quiet week then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you got?
Except for maybe some of the news. Well, last time I was on, February 15th.
By the way, you're a doctor.
I am.
Well, you will be.
I am.
You are,
Yeah.
but you will have additional doctorates.
Okay.
Did you hear about this legislation? The Institute for Creation Research had tried to get approval in Texas.
I'm not sure I want to be a doctorate of creationist research.
No.
That's where you're going.
I do, and I will be if this passes. But the ICR couldn't get approval to give out, postgraduate degrees and things. And
Labeled
so,
as science, yeah.
Yeah,
From the state of Texas.
well, they couldn't get approval for certification to deliver, to distribute degrees in anything.
Okay.
That would be, sanctioned by the board. But there's a Texas representative from Tyler, whose name I've already forgotten.
That wants to railroad it through it by vote.
No. His thing is that, well, they're a nonprofit educational organization. They don't take any money from the federal or state organizations, and they should not be subject to the board approval. So he's trying to get a bill through that will exempt nonprofit educational corporations from those strictures, which means the Institute for Creation Research will be able to hand out doctorates, and so will I. And believe me, doctorates will be flying around like confetti at a gay pride parade. They will be the best designed docs we've ever seen, because we have guys like Dennis Opay, Jeff D, that are all professional artists, Tracy Harris from Atheist. We will have the best looking doctoral degrees.
Style, yeah.
And I'm going to have, I think, about 38,000 doctorates of my own, so that when somebody calls in and says, what's your...
I'm smarter than you are. You can say, no, you're not.
This is a big problem, and I joke about it, but you had Ben Stein's movie Expelled. You can't expel somebody who's never enrolled. And that's the fundamental problem here. The intelligent design people, the pro-creationist groups, think that they're being singled out and eliminated from academia.
Persecution card.
And they are not. There are standards, and if they ever meet them, they'll be included. And if they don't meet them, they're not included. That's the way this works. That's why degrees have some value. A degree is a receipt for having done the work that should give you a level of expertise in a particular field. Doesn't mean you're always right. You could forget everything. Doesn't mean that you're actually an expert. You demonstrate your expertise. The degree is a receipt. But what we do is we say, okay, it's kind of a shortcut. Clearly, this guy has done the work, as this degree shows. So we can, kind of skip the 14-hour introduction and interview where you describe everything you do. There's still the peer review process. There's still the work involved in demonstrating this. But when you dumb things down to where anybody can get a degree, where you turn your diploma mills into mainstream via legislation, then guess what's going to happen? Those clever little boards that are sanctioned by the state, that have these really high standards, if you just go ahead and circumvent them, then somebody else is going to make some better group, some better organization, some better authoring authority. And now all of a sudden your degree from UT, because it's the rough equivalent of a degree from the Institute for Creation Research, because it's legislation, it's not, don't worry, you don't have to freak out. There'll be a new degree to go after, some sort of other exclusive club, something that has standards, something that doesn't just let everybody in. There is value to being discerning. There is value to saying, no, I'm sorry, not everybody gets to play in the NFL or whatever. Whatever it is, it is worth exactly what the requirements for it have deemed it to be, the value that it would be, and that made no sense. Damn it, I was
No,
really...
that's fine.
It's just, I'm sick to death of them.
I mean, they're
it's like,
valuing it.
You won't let us into the club. No, we will. All you have to do is meet the requirements for entry into the club. But we don't want to meet that. We want you to meet ours. Well, fine, go make your own peer-reviewed journals, which they have. Yeah. Go make your own degree programs, which they have. And the problem is that everybody knows that those are worthless, so there's no real working scientist trying to get published in Creation Review. And there's no real science people who want to go to the Institute for Creation Research to get their degree, because it's not going to do them any good.
Yeah, there's a pecking order among those things, and they're pretty low on the pecking order.
Yeah, it's your fault you got excluded from this, not ours, not anybody's. It's yours alone. Anyway, enough.
Well, they want to co-opt the word science, right? They want to sprinkle science on top of their thing and say that they're somehow equal to everybody else.
Oh well.
Creation science is not science. No. Okay. You're done with that? Last time I was on, which was February 15th, a whole 5 weeks ago, a long time ago, I talked about why God doesn't scale up. Or why can't God solve the big problems if he's omniscient and omnipotent and these sorts of things? Why can't he do it? And last time I focused on the problem of evil, and I focused on the systematic failure of prayer, but I didn't even get to half of my topic for that day. And today I want to kind of pick that up again, and let's take a look at the behavior of believers in God and whether they exhibit sort of something better. So there's, and I think we're going to find that they don't. So there's lots of religious claims. There's a claim that God is all-knowing, God is all-powerful, and God is benevolent. Okay, these are claims that you hear all the time. You hear that God created the universe. He created human beings, so he knows how they're made, and he can presumably talk to them. He can communicate to them both directly and through prayer and through this Holy Ghost. So part of him is in those people, and there's just this great communication path between God and believers. And God is the author of morality, supposedly, and that's another claim that you hear. And so it's very clear that people who believe in God and who follow God and believe, devote their lives to God should be moral people.
And in this case, you're talking about obviously the people who devote themselves to a God who meets these
standards, right? So Christianity and Islam fit with this, and I think Judaism too, for that matter. So all the big three Abrahamic religions, I think, fit into this. So, okay, so we have all these claims, but based on these claims, we should see that churches should never have scandals. We shouldn't see individuals like Ted Haggard, fall into scandals. But you can easily say, oh, those are just the individuals involved, right? But in the aggregate, God should get things right. So religious communities should be obviously better than non-religious communities because they have all these God believers doing the right moral thing under the power of God. And religious countries should be better on most measures. Well, is this true? And the answer is no. No, even with God on your side, we don't have this sort of thing. We don't have godly societies as better than non-godly ones. Now, maybe there's a religious explanation for this. Maybe God is testing these people. Maybe he's saying, well, just like the Jews, the most persecuted people in the planet, perhaps, or at least the ones who claim the most persecution, is supposedly God's chosen people. But maybe God's playing these sorts of games with Christians and Muslims as well. I don't know. So my take on this, my reason for not believing that godly, or my explanation for why godly societies are not better, it should always be a slam dunk, why they're not better is because God beliefs are false, A, and B, godly societies amplify these false beliefs because they aggregate these false beliefs into false action and falsely based action, falsely based policies that ultimately cause measurable harm. So these are the reasons why I believe that these things are false. And my main source today is from an article in a scholarly journal. The journal is called the Journal of Religion and Society. The article is by Gregory S. Paul. It's called Cross-National Correlations of Quantifiable Social Health with Popular Religiosity and Secularism in the Prosperous Democracies. And it's a mouthful, and if you want to write in, I'll be glad to give you the link to this. This is a very interesting study that looks at religious belief in a number of prosperous democracies in the sort of first world, and compares a number of social ills, things like life expectancy or sexually transmitted diseases or teen pregnancy and these sorts of things. And generally it finds that there's a correlation between religious beliefs and something bad happening in these various societies. Now, if there is a God, this should never happen. There should never be no correlation at all. In fact, there should be a correlation the other way, that belief in God should give you a better society, because that's the claim, that religious societies are more moral. That's the claim, and that claim is false. Okay, that's just plain old false. And so what I want to do today is take a look at some of these different metrics and give you my armchair explanation for why this is. And let me make a couple little caveats here. Atheist societies or secular societies have people in them that believe stupid things. And we actually had one of the people who are fans of our show write in and say, hey, I live in Japan and these folks believe in ghosts. They want to have, religious people do ceremonies for them and all these sort of goofy things. But and yes, there's a lot of sort of goofy beliefs out there. But when you don't have them aggregating into the same sort of channel, when not everybody in the society believes the same thing, then they kind of cancel each other out. It's like noise. But when people believe goofy things all the same way, those things tend to get amplified, and those tend to bring out problems that you can see. So today I want to talk about the valuing of life, sexuality and control of sexuality, and just some other general measures of sort of societal well-being, and talk about how these look. And I'll give my explanation. Now, these are all correlations I'm talking about, which there should be none of, so the religious folks have a problem already. But I'm going to give my armchair explanation for why I think these things are causation, why I think religious belief causes these social ills, and people are welcome to call me up and tell me I'm wrong, or give me some better advice, and or tell me why God's in the mix and God's doing these terrible things. So today, let's talk about the value of life first. I'll hit a couple of these, and we'll go to calls. Okay, the value of life. So
I just nodded.
You just nodded.
I was like,
okay.
And I realized that not only can not everybody see me,
I think they did.
Well, okay. I wasn't on camera at the time, but also there's people who listen to the podcast. So, yes, Don, that sounds like a wonderful idea.
They can hear your neck. Okay, so let's talk about homicide. Okay, homicide is correlated with religious belief. Let's talk about life expectancy. Lower life expectancy is correlated with religious belief. Infant mortality is correlated with religious belief. Suicide is kind of a mixed bag. Teen suicide is correlated, but suicide in general is not, and we can take a look at some of those. There's a companion article also published in the Journal of Religion and Society that talks about homicide. It's called Religious Cosmologies and Homicide Rates Among Nations, and it's a similar study, although it looks at homicide directly and looks more into what might be the causes. And one of the things they come up with is very interesting, is they come up with this idea that societies that have a strong belief in good and evil tend to have a higher homicide rate. And they think it's basically because if you think that somebody is possessed and somebody is inherently evil, the only way to get rid of that is to kill them. And if you have doubts, if you're not zealous, and if you're not sure about whether someone is good or evil, or whether they have just evil intents at a particular time, then you're much less likely to kill them. Also, on the homicide thing, if you believe that human bodies are just soul traps, where the whole purpose of the body is to die to release the soul to go off to heaven, then you're going to devalue human life. It's just that simple. So these beliefs, religious zeal, the belief in good and evil, and the soul trap belief, I think, are the causes of the high homicide rate. I might be wrong. There might be other causes. It might be difficult to discern the causes, but that's my armchair explanation for why that is. So I think it's obvious that if you have those beliefs, you're going to have more homicide in a particular society. Now, for suicide, it's a little bit different thing. It turns out religious societies have a lower suicide rate in general, except for teen suicides, which I'm going to focus on a little bit later. But suicide rates, there's a strong religious taboo against suicide, because otherwise people would just off themselves and try to go to heaven, right, if they didn't do that. You've talked about that recently, Matt. And then there's also this belief that you don't own your own life. or that you're part of a greater purpose. So if you kill yourself, you're going to defeat that purpose. Let's talk about life expectancy. This is another negative one. People don't live as long in religious societies, and of course, if they're killed by homicide, they're not going to be living as long. They're gonna, so that's one reason why there might be a lower life expectancy. But when people believe in faith healing and they believe in prayer as medicine, they're not going to seek medical care and get the medical care that they deserve. Right? They're going to go to quack faith healers instead of getting and they're going to not live as long. That's pretty obvious. Also, we have in our society, we have the suppression of education and research, things like stem cell research and suppression of belief in evolution or understanding of evolution. And these things are very important to understand life and medicine and these sorts of things. And if you have generally an ignorant society about life-extending technologies, sciences and technologies, that society is not going to live as long. So I think that's pretty clear. Traditionally, the Catholic Church prevented people from opening up dead bodies to understand how the anatomy worked and how the human body worked. They were terrified that people would look in there and not find the soul, because they knew that there wasn't a soul. So there was a big taboo against that actually inhibited science and medicine for many, many years. And it was when that got released during the Renaissance that branch of science leapt forward, once that was restricted. Infant mortality, same sort of thing. If you have faith healing and prayer, if you're going to sit home and pray that God's going to heal your kid, then the kid's going to potentially die. If you have religious restrictions against things like blood transfusions, that's a problem. I think that women who have postpartum depression and who are religious are much less likely to get help from medical people. They're more likely to get help from praying or whatever, and that's not real help. So I think the mental health of the parents is not necessarily that good. So those are my explanations for why those things might be. You want to take a couple calls and then we'll come back?
Sure, we can do that.
So let me
go ahead.
Do one more little thing here. So we talked about kind of the life issues, and I want to talk about sexual issues next, and then after that kind of the general goodness of the society, and talk about why those don't correlate with religious belief. So just to let people know where I'm at.
Coming up next on the Atheist Experience, sex.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah. We got Cal in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, I believe.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going?
How you doing, Cal?
Not bad. Big fan, first time caller.
Thanks.
I have a question on my friend from school. He's a Christian. He speaks of post-creation evolution. Have you guys ever heard of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your opinion on it? And is there really any rationale behind
Maybe
it?
you can define it, because I don't know.
I think he's 99% right.
So after creation,
From that point on, he's right. It's before that he's got no evidence.
Okay, so
what happens, the reason this thing comes up is that you have a creationist belief that, that there is some God or some force or whatever that created all this, and it comes from your religion. And then as we go about, there are people who are unsatisfied with that answer. They often get into, scientific fields, but basically our general curiosity prompts us along. And when somebody is unsatisfied with magic man done it as an answer, and they go out and investigate, and then all of a sudden we find evidence and we start building up a proper understanding of the way reality and the universe works. And when there's so much evidence for something that even the most credulous people can't possibly reject it, like, the Catholic Church, then they say, oh yeah, this evolution thing, it's true, but that describes what happens after God created. It's they've got to stick their God somewhere, and where God used to explain this much, we've managed to explain this chunk, so we have to take God out of that, but we're still sticking God in whatever little gaps of our knowledge there may be. And so since abiogenesis is not completely understood, other than the fact that it's possible, and since the origins of the universe are not completely understood and probably never will be, although the Big Bang cosmology is probably the best explanation anybody's ever going to come up with, and oh, by the way, it's confirmed by observations and math, but there's still, little areas where we don't understand, so they stick God in there because it makes them feel good.
Okay.
So it's like a God of the Gaps thing, right? They want to stick their God somewhere.
Right. It's really
I'll
quite
tell
interesting.
him
Really, just with him, how he's an extremely intelligent individual. He's really good in math and everything like that, and knows a lot of evolution.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he still sticks onto that belief of a God creation.
One of my favorite proponents of evolution of recent years is Ken Miller, and he's a Catholic. And yet he's extremely vocal against the intelligent design movement. He was instrumental in the Dover case. He's very well spoken. He's a very good instructor. I like the fact that he's written textbooks. His explanations are great, and he's right on the money on evolution. It's just that I don't even know. Ken doesn't even normally talk about his religious view of how God created. I don't know how these things are mesh in somebody's mind. I mean, we tend to compartmentalize things. I don't know how they make sense of it. It doesn't make sense to me even when I thought it made sense to me.
Well, there's a compartmentalization that goes on, right? You have the real world that deals with logic and these sorts of things, and then these people seem to have in their head some sort of God views that they have to keep separate, because there's these tensions between the two where one just is incompatible with the other in some cases. And I think that's what your friend has done, is he's sort of compartmentalized his beliefs. I see that a lot.
Really? So there's just basically something just trying to make him feel good, but still trying to seem rational in his own mind?
Well, it may not just, I don't want to oversimplify it in that, I like this particular belief of God. There are people that are genuinely convinced that a God exists, and in part it's because they've had experiences that they can't explain. What they don't realize is that while some of those experiences may not have an explanation or an easy explanation or one they can understand, some of them are actually really common things. I've heard people, literally, the people have called into the show or sent in emails and said, I believe in God absolutely, and nothing you could ever say could change my mind because I've had these amazing experiences, and when and this couldn't be, coincidence, and this can't be explained, and these experiences are amazing, and if you would have had experiences like this, you'd believe in God too. And when I ask for an example, half the time they're like, well, I can't really think of one at the moment, which, by the way, drives me crazy. That you just... It's like, man, I had the best dinner ever. What was it? Oh, I don't really remember. And the other half is they give the most trivial, mundane, commonplace things that fit into that kind of weird category. Like, I'm thinking of somebody and the phone rings and it's them. Okay, yeah. And guess what? I've had that experience, and it didn't convince me that there was a God. What it convinced me was that I have a phone, they have a phone, there are people that I care about and think about, and then I realize, how many times did that phone ring and it wasn't them? And how many times was I thinking about them and they didn't call?
Yeah, confirmation
It's confirmation bias there. As soon as
you guys have seen that movie Religious, right? The one? Yeah. Like that one guy with Juice for Jesus, how he's explaining all these miracles that made him believe in what he does. And then when he tried to give Bill an example, he couldn't really think of it.
Yeah.
It's such a huge thing in his life. But giving an example of it was just not happening for him.
Yeah, it's nuts. Oh, I was almost in a car accident.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's almost been in a car accident for the most part. Oh, well, I had
my question, though.
Thanks, Cal. Appreciate the call.
Yep. Keep it on, guys.
Okay. The other ones are like, I had a relative that was incredibly sick, and they got better, and the doctors couldn't explain it. Okay. Take cancer, for example. Sometimes it goes into remission. A lot of things the human body is just going to fix on its own. The fact that they don't absolutely... what's really nice here is that the doctors are actually honest. They're not going to give you some BS explanation. They're going to say, we really don't know why this happened, but sometimes it happens. That doesn't make it a miracle, and it doesn't give you the right to say, this happened and you can't explain it, therefore God did it.
It's the God of the Gaps thing again.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here's an unexplained thing, therefore God must fit in it.
Yeah.
Jam it in there.
Yeah, you keep tempting me. I'm going to tell him where to jam God here in a minute. We got Stephen in New York, I believe. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm actually a former member of the Unification Church.
A Mooney?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, I was born into it, actually.
You are then the first Mooney that I will, or former Mooney that I will have ever had a conversation with.
Oh, wow. I'm a pretty good one, too.
A pretty good ex-Mooney?
What does that mean exactly?
Well, my story specifically is kind of interesting. Like, I was born into it, and, like around age 13, I started realizing that, it was all kind of, it was all just really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically about it turning into a godly society, the Unification Church sort of has this belief of like backhanded world domination.
Oh yeah.
Where they
very common,
they call it world peace. So they have all these world peace conferences, but really what they believe in is like conquering the fucking world.
Yeah,
kind of.
There's a lot of religions that kind of have that sort of idea, right?
Yeah. And so whenever I hear anybody talk about like world peace, it really makes me suspicious.
Whenever I hear anybody talking about world peas, it makes me hungry.
Yeah, we have a
way better than
bumper
cream
sticker
corn.
that's popular here in Austin, and it's kind of a pun on imagine world peace. It says imagine world peas like in a blender. It's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
that sounds really yummy. But so there's never been another Mooney that's ever called you?
Not that I
we
can
know
think
of.
of.
Not that we know
Wow.
of.
So what is, obviously you say they have this grand plan to take over the world. What's the plan? Did you not bring the plan out with you?
I don't know. The plan is like, I don't know, they just world domination. It's very multicultural. They're all over the world, actually. There's Unification Church members in Africa, in Zimbabwe specifically.
Yeah, and they have a lot of sort of shell companies and things.
Right. There's this one guy named Black Hyunjin, and Hyunjin is the son of Sun Myung Moon. He died in a car accident the day before my birthday. Mm-hmm. My name is Stephen, and Stephen was the martyr that died after Jesus, I think. Okay. So that's why they named me Stephen. So Hyunjin died. Then there's this guy from Zimbabwe who said that he was the reincarnated spirit of Hyunjin.
Okay.
But he was actually insane. He was like crazy, and he would beat people up.
So wait, now if he died the day before your birthday, why don't you claim that you're him reincarnated?
That's a good idea. I should do that. Unfortunately, there's this thing called intellectual honesty. And that's kind of hard.
Gets in the way, doesn't it?
It's the thing that keeps me poor as well.
Yeah. So he just went crazy and he started beating people up. At first, Sun Myung Moon was kind of like, he'd promote this guy Black Hyunjin because it kind of served his end. Because it gave his story a little bit more credibility.
So both of these guys are using each other, basically, right?
Right. It was kind of like how the Catholic Church used
Mother Teresa. There's a
Mother
good example.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Right.
Or how Christians use Jews and when they want to say Judeo-Christian and then ignore them the rest of the time. As long as they can unite together to fight the common enemy, and then as soon as the enemy is destroyed, then all of a sudden they're Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland again.
Look for thuggery is my idea. Yeah. But go ahead.
No, thanks a lot. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. He started beating people up because the Unification Church believes in indemnity, purification through pain.
Why not inflict that on others, right?
Right. So,
what a great belief, yeah.
But then they kind of excommunicated him, and they sent him back to Africa. Then he started his own cult.
Well, yeah. And, what else is he going to do?
Right, and so then they had to send people over to Africa to make sure that hey, listen, we're still the Unification Church. You shouldn't listen to this guy.
You got some copyright infringement, huh?
That was
yeah.
IP issues.
There's some kind of vortex thing happening here with the show. I'm not quite sure.
Right, and the whole thing is a front, or the businesses, are just
So do you think it's like a BDSM sex cult? Because I might reconsider my position on them if it were.
a sex. It's not, in my experience anyway, I haven't gotten any sex through the church.
Yeah.
There are some good-looking
Should have been a
girls
priest.
and stuff. Lots of half Asian girls in the church, which is kind of hot.
Okay.
All right, Stephen, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep, bye-bye. We've got Daniel in Dublin, California.
Hey, Matt. This is Daniel. I sent you an email about 2 weeks ago. I'm guessing you got behind on your email. And I just had a few things I wanted to say. I want to thank you guys a lot for the show. I'm so grateful that we have secularists speaking out against some ridiculous theological bullshit, if I might say. I don't know if I can say, but...
You already did.
You already did.
Thank you. I just want to clear things up. I do have some comments about today's topic, but I do want to clear things up about things in our email. No, I don't believe in any supernatural phenomena. I think that spirituality is purely subjective experience, which just means it's on the mind. So I accept your charge that calling the universe God is ridiculous, and I've kind of since then stopped doing that. But I do think that, for example, there is some kind of mysterious origin that led to the creation of the universe. It's not a person. It's a mystery. Nobody knows what it is.
Daniel?
Yes?
Are you on a cell phone or something?
Yes, I am.
Because it's
coming
fading in and out.
And we're having a lot of trouble hearing you.
Okay, how much of that did you hear?
I think I heard most of it, but I just one more time, just in case you get dropped. What's the point that you're getting to that you wanted us to comment on?
Basically, I am writing a book, and in this book, and it's a fictional book, but in this book, it does talk a little bit about explore what kind of happens, that the positive and negative consequences of different philosophies and different societies, religious. And in that book, there are secular societies, and those societies, it is my kind of way of showing.
Daniel, I got to stop because we're dropping like every other word, and I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, other than you're writing a book about societies, and then these societies. And so send us an email or call from a landline or something, and we'll try and get you back on. But it's kind of
Can you hear me any better right now?
tortures. It's doing the same. It's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, man.
So
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry.
That's all right. Try again from a landline sometime, or Skype call in, or whatever.
All right. Take care.
You want to?
Yeah, let me do another riff to know.
You want to talk about sex?
Let's talk about sex. Okay.
You freak.
I'm a freak. Yeah, I'm always talking about sex. It's an interesting subject.
Hey, if you want to be a freak and sell it on the weekend, none of my business.
Okay, we're talking about godly societies. Well, godly societies have higher rates of sexually transmitted diseases. They have higher teen pregnancy rates. They have higher abortion rates, even though many of them claim to want to stop abortion. They have higher infant mortality, which actually relates to sex, and higher teen suicides, which actually relates to sex. Also, marriage and religious marriages may have some impediments to non-religious marriages. So we can take a look at that. Attitudes towards homosexuality are very common with religious societies, negative attitudes. Okay, the reason for all these things are that religions need believers. Very simple. In order to create believers, you have to go out and recruit people, which is work, or you have to make them, right? And so mature religions make believers by having children who are brought up in the church. And so they have to basically, religions control sex in order to make more believers, and it's just that simple. So how does this work? With sexually transmitted diseases and teen pregnancy, we find that religious societies and religious groups want to misinform people about their sexuality. They want to stifle use of condoms. They want to make sure that sex ed doesn't make it there. They want to stop family planning. All these things. Well, misinformed kids are gonna get STDs. Misinformed kids are gonna get pregnant. It's just that simple. You know, you're pitting 4 billion years of evolution that says have sex, procreate, make more genes with this ridiculous little religion here that's trying to co-opt it and do that. And who's going to win? Well, the 4 billion years of evolution is going to win. People are going to have sex. They're not going to be controlled, and they're going to make the teens are going to have kids, and they're going to have STDs because they're out there doing that. And if you're going to prevent them from getting education, they're going to be harmed. So even recently, we've had the Pope say, "Oh, condoms cause AIDS." So the Pope recently, in his trip to Africa, said that condoms exacerbate the spread of AIDS, and he's been ridiculed for that, as he should be, because he's a putz. We've had here in Austin, we've had a dismantling of the family planning clinics and we've had teenage birth rates increases for the second consecutive year here, and Texas is leading that because Texas is leading in abstinence-only sex education.
By the way, there was evidently a big brawl at a church in France this morning.
Yeah?
Over protesting the Pope's statements.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have all the details because the news was in French, and
okay.
It's one of the 3 or 4 languages I don't speak.
French to have brawls, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's talk about abortion and infant mortality. Well, religions are happy for women to be pregnant. They want them to be pregnant. They just don't want them to have abortions. So, and the reason is that when you have a woman that has a child in her uterus, she's sort of in control, and the religions they have to control that woman in order to get that baby to come out. And once that baby's out, things are kind of okay because the mother-daughter bond is going to kick in, and she's going to do her best to raise that kid. But in order to have more children, you got to trick people into getting pregnant and not having abortions. And this is a very big part of what religions are doing. So they have to. So ironically, religions are actually creating the situation where there are going to be more abortions. And this is why the number of abortions is higher in religious societies. Is they want to have more kids. They just don't want to take responsibility for them. They want to foist it off onto the poor mother. And the similar thing with infant mortality. If you have kids that are born into a home that is where they're not wanted, they're gonna die earlier. And I've talked about infant mortality a little bit with the faith healing and all that crap. Okay, so that's how I believe that these things come about. What about teen suicide? Well, teen suicide, unfortunately, tends to be heavily towards the gay kids, and this relates to the religious attitudes towards gays. Gays aren't part of this breeding program, so they're basically considered an enemy, and so great gay kids end up sort of being shunned from society and being outcasts, and very often they commit suicide. With regard to marriage, we have a statistic that in the U.S., the divorce rates for persons who are currently or have previously been divorced by religious belief or affiliation, the non-denominational Protestants carry a 34% there, the atheists and agnostics carry a 21% there. And there's a whole level going down the line, but non-denominational Protestants are pretty high. Catholics, it turns out, is low, and atheists and agnostics are low. But if you have an institution that's kind of co-opting marriage in order to make children, then and saying you can't have sex before marriage, and once you're married you have to raise kids and bring them up in the church, then you've kind of twisted the notion of what marriage is all about, and you've co-opted it and turned it into something else. You can make an analogy with conscription, right? It might be a noble thing to serve your country and to go, serve in the military, but if somebody coerces you into doing that, then it's no longer noble. And likewise, if marriage might be an expression of this very wonderful thing of love, but if it's co-opted for a breeding program, then and for a sexual release, then you're twisting the notion of what marriage is. So creating believers at the expense of people is really what's going on here. We're creating believers, and as a result, we're getting STDs, teen pregnancy, higher levels of abortion, infant mortality, all these negative things. And this is why I think all of these fit into the same sort of category of controlling sexuality. Okay. Do you want to take?
And I couldn't possibly disagree more.
Really?
With about 90% of what you said.
Okay. You're welcome to
For
disagree.
real.
Okay.
But that's the beautiful thing.
That's the beautiful thing.
However, we got callers, and so maybe we'll
Let's let the
talk more
callers
about
call me
it.
up. Let's let them talk.
Maybe they will point out what I was thinking. I don't know.
Okay,
Rick
please
in
do.
Dallas, how you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Hey, I was calling in to get your opinion on a particular subject. I wanted to see if you thought that maybe religion isn't necessarily the root of the problem, but more of like a symptom of the problem. Fear being the real problem, and religion is just something that's cropped up in these godly societies to take care of the real problem of fear. You know, fear of disease, fear of tragedy, fear of loss, fear of what happens after you die, those sort of things.
Well, I think it's related. I think religion pretends to assuage fears, right? They say, we're going to take care of you. God's watching you. God's going to take care of you. These sorts of things, and you're going to go to the happy place when you die, and you don't need to be afraid. But they also play on people's fears, So it's a little of both. You don't get to sort of get away from fear in religious societies, I think.
I think you're right in the sense that they're the result of a number of different fears. But the thing is, the fear is the result of being human. So, you can draw this causal change. We're human, therefore we're fearful and curious and uncomfortable with not knowing. And so we have constructed religions to assuage those fears and to give us supposed answers, etc. But at some point, there's some action that was taken that causes harm. And that's what we're trying to identify. And I don't think that fear is the point at which we need to identify. Fear can cause you to make mistakes. But when we're talking about religion, and one of my objections, or one of the points of disagreement to what Don was saying, is that there was a lot of it that was overgeneralized, oversimplified, broad brush, religion this, God that. And in the context of what Don's talking about, I don't know that's fair, but in the context of atheists speaking out against the problems of religion, which is what Don's talking about, then I think that it is fair to use a slightly broader brush and to say that, at least insofar as I can tell, the harms that I would relate to religion is the single factor that I would consider causal and unifying, because you take actions based on your beliefs, and if you have a bunch of false beliefs, or a bunch of beliefs that don't mesh with reality, or a bunch of beliefs that are inconsistent with reality, that's how you get to harm. Fear in and of itself can't do that. It needs fear is like, let's just say fear and I don't know are the two things. And what religion does is says, don't be afraid, here's your answer. Well, if the answer is BS, then the decisions that you make based on that answer are very likely going to be problematic. They're very likely going to cause harm to you or somebody else. Additionally, if they work a little bit, or they seem to work, or you convince yourself that they work, then all of a sudden the other answers and beliefs that this religion layer wants to give you, not that religion is the thing that wants to do something, but that come along with this, now all of a sudden you start believing those things too, and applying those. And the more false things you believe, the more messed up your thought processes are. I mean, I said about 1 million times on the show now, I care about whether or not my beliefs are true, and I want to believe as many true things and as few false things. And both of those have to be in there. I mean, if you believe as many true things as possible, congratulations, you can do that by believing everything. Now, by definition, you believe all true things. And if you wanted to just believe as few false things as possible, congratulations, you can believe nothing. You can come as close to it as possible. But what I'm talking about is a precise filter that lets you, I'm not going to say I believe this or I accept that this claim is true until there's good reason to do so. Because if I do it beforehand, then I'm placing myself at risk. And if I take action based on those, because I take actions based on those beliefs, and I want to make damn sure that those beliefs are true. And that's what religion, kind of in the broad sense, doesn't do. It may be the case that there is some God or some higher power. I don't see any reason to think there is one, and I couldn't prove that there isn't one. But the point is that those who claim there is can't prove that there is one.
Right, I get that, but I know when I talk to a lot of my friends, that are religious, one of their, they always feel like I'm attacking them, personally, right, because of their religion. And I've always found it's easier to get through to them if I start talking about, well, what are your fears in life? Or why do you seek God to fill in, or to basically, I think of religion like as a self-defense mechanism.
I think religion tries to meet certain human needs, right? And some of those needs are very visceral, like, I want to survive, right? And religions promise me that I'm going to live forever, and gosh, that's just powerful stuff, right? So they try to meet those needs, but now I don't think they actually do meet those needs.
Obviously.
But I think that they've got that marketing going.
Well, I've just noticed that a lot of atheists, I see them speak to the religious and how it's really ridiculous, and I'm in agreement on that part, but I think it almost falls on deaf ears from these people because of their lifelong upbringing and everything, and I think maybe if we point out,
they've been trained not to trust you, right? Because there will be these people coming to take you away, and they're gonna take you to the devil and all this stuff, right? So you have to not listen to them.
There's lots of approaches that may or may not work. We've talked about this a lot at different times, especially when to ridicule, when is ridicule a valid tool, when to rely on reason, who's likely to listen to reason. I don't think for a second that there's going to be some fundamentalist listening to the show that is going to become an atheist,
have an atheist epiphany, right?
Because of anything I've said. And oftentimes I'll talk about the problem that I see with religious moderates providing legitimacy and shelter for the fundamentalists by using the same name, the same holy books, the same beliefs. They're just not quite as gung-ho about them. It doesn't earn me a lot of credit, or doesn't earn them a lot of credit. But I do see that religious moderation, I think, religious moderates are essential. There are both a path away from fundamentalism and a path to fundamentalism. And my goal, while the goal of the show is never to deconvert or get somebody to abandon their religion, it's about, first of all, clearing up misperceptions about atheists and atheism and providing that outlet, raising the level of public debate to whatever degree we can, actually having conversations and discussions about things. And if somebody abandons their religious belief because of that, great. And if somebody's religious belief is strengthened by that, I still stand by the fact that I'm happy about that too, as long as they actually took the time to consider it. Because if they have some kind of personal revelation that makes it true for them, or makes it to them seem true, I can't argue against that because I haven't had the same experience. The only thing I can point out is that, gosh, that's a colossally unfair way to distribute the truth of such really important information by some kind of private revelation, and then you have to run around trying to convince everybody else that your magical epiphany was true. I just, who comes up with a system like that, and why would anybody think that was a good thing?
Right.
I know I got off track, Rick. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I gotta let you go. We got full lines today and only about 35 minutes left in the show. But thanks a lot for calling in.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. And we've got OTTY's Donny in Cleveland, Ohio.
Good afternoon, Sprint IP Relay, operator 8546. Have you received an internet relay call before?
No.
Okay, one moment and I'll go ahead and give an explanation.
Okay. This is on a TV show, so if you can make it brief, that'd be the best.
Okay, the person on the line is using a free internet service to communicate with you.
Okay.
The caller's typing their conversation, which will be read to you. When you hear the words "go ahead," it will be your turn to speak. Please speak directly to the caller, and everything that's heard will be typed to them. Could I have you repeat how you answered the phone, please?
This may be too awkward for TV.
Hi, Donny. Thanks for calling.
Okay, my name is Donny from Cleveland, Ohio. Hello, I'd like to talk about birth control. Birth control is sinful in the Christian marriages and also robbing God of priesthood children. Go ahead. Oh, one moment, please. Birth control is sinful in the Christian marriages and also robbing God of priesthood children.
Do you want to respond to that, Matt?
She hasn't said go ahead again yet, but
I think she did.
okay. Okay. Go ahead. Donnie, send me an email.
That was
Sorry,
awkward.
I
We want to try to accommodate folks, but
Yeah,
it was just too painful. Sorry.
I was willing to give it a shot. Text communication is limiting enough, but I realize that there are people with various disabilities and rely on services like that, and I thought, hey, let's go ahead and give it a shot. It's the first one. It's the last one. It just doesn't work with the TV show. No offense to you, Donnie, or to the Sprint service. Thanks for doing that. But send me an email. I'll be happy to talk to you. I'm just not going to put everybody through,
Yeah.
Might as well be sending telegraphs.
Let's take one more call, and then I'll do another little rift, and then we'll finish out with calls. How about that?
All right, but before we take a call, I want to remind everybody that we'll be going to Threadgills after the show's over, because I didn't even put that in the announcements at all for today. We're on the air till 6 o'clock, which is about 33 and a half minutes away, and we get down there around 6:30. The address is up on your screen. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come. If you're watching the show here in Austin or somewhere close enough to Austin where you can make it down, feel free. If you're going down to preach, proselytize, or provoke, please don't. You can just send us an email or call in next week or call in this week if there's time, and we'll be happy to talk to you. That's it. I thought I had another announcement, but I guess I actually don't. So
Okay.
we've dropped that one. We've got Brandon in Gainesville, Florida.
Hello?
Hey, you're on the air, Brandon.
Okay, cool. My question is about basically, how religious people tend to have a lot of kids in many circumstances. And I'm from saying this, but in a lot of cases, like you can see on some of their ships, they're not always brightest people.
Are you on a cell phone, Brandon?
Yeah, am I
You're
breaking up?
dropping out.
Yeah, you're
See?
breaking up. I'll go ahead and hit your point, but I'm going to go ahead and drop the call. I'm sorry, but
Okay, there's no
it's really rough.
in college.
I think I'm going to touch on this as a little bit too, but I do appreciate the call, and I'm sorry we got to drop it. I don't want to make an absolute rule, no cell phones, but it is cell phones that tend to have the biggest problems with this, and it's got something to do with
Nothing wrong with cell phones. I think it's
bidirectional
just we got to have good connection. It's
Yeah.
just that simple.
I'm going to roll my disagreement with you
Okay.
in part into a disagreement with Brandon, and it's not. Brandon was saying that how religion encourages people to have lots of kids generally. No, I don't know that. I mean, really. Sure, Christianity says be fruitful and multiply, but I don't know that most Christians are having passels full of kids, nor are they encouraged to. I don't know how many other religions encourage people to breed like, bunnies or whatever you want to pick that breed like cockroaches. It just so happens that if you find somebody who has decided to have a butt ton of kids, a metric butt ton of kids, a quiver full, a basket full, a barrel full of children, the odds are very good that they're religious. However, we're still talking about really, really wild exceptions to the rule. It's not like,
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of pressure, and especially from the very vocal religious right, who are pushing these things. The whole
Really? Like what?
Focus on the family is all
focus on
about.
the family. Does focus on the family say how many kids you should have or that you should keep popping them out?
No, it's sort of part of their mantra is to have lots of kids and bring them up in the church. I've been to Catholic weddings where they said just that. It's like, go make a lot of babies for Jesus.
It is something that happens a lot, but I don't want to get to the point where we are trying to say that this is the norm or talking broad brush, and you're saying things like, the church encourages them to have sex, and then you say something like, but it encourages them not to have sex before they're married. Okay, or actually what you were saying was religion. Religion wants, religion does. Okay. Religion doesn't want or do anything.
All right.
And no one church wants or does anything. But You also said things like they need to trick people into not having abortions. Nonsense.
Oh, there's a lot of laws focused
But
on
you don't have
that
to
issue.
trick people into not having abortions. The general...
I said to trick people into getting pregnant, so that then they have these consequences.
What,
I mean,
what
if
you're
you're-
talking
if you
about
are-
is
if you
that
are sabotaging
you want to get
somebody's
them pregnant
education-
and trick them into not having an abortion, like abortion is what's going to be the de
That's not what I
facto
said.
thing.
That's not what I said.
I wrote it down when you said it, but...
I said I was saying the tricking part was about getting them to have.
Well, I
pregnant.
disagree with that too. Why would you have to trick people into getting pregnant? That is the natural course of action. That is what we are biologically programmed to do. I'm just saying I don't quite get it. I think there's a connection here. Now, does religion play on those tendencies? Yeah. Does it amplify them in some ways, in some cases? Yeah. But I still don't know that it applies broad brush
May have
to
painted too broad a brush.
religions. But let's hit Tyler real quick, and then you can do your next bit. So we got Tyler in Austin.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to talk about a couple of personal experiences that I've had in my life. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm on the cell phone.
So far, so good.
It's working.
Okay, good. So I've had a couple of personal experiences, and I've thought about ways in which a religious person might interpret them to, be something supernatural. And so I wanted to share them with you, and then I wanted to summon up my courage and disagree with you on something, Matt. So, my first experience happened when I was 14, and I was in an accident that left me with a lot of brain damage and almost killed me.
Which makes everything else you say today a suspect, you know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually turned out pretty normal.
I'll be the judge of that. Go ahead, Tyler.
So I was in the hospital for a couple weeks, and I lost my entire memory from the accident in around 4 days from that. And I was in a pretty messed up state, but after I got discharged from the hospital, I went home, and I was laying in bed, and I was thinking about this girl that I was dating at the time, and I was remembering all the dates that we had been on and all the experiences that we've shared, and just thinking of her fondly. And so I decided to go ahead and give her a call, since I hadn't spoken to her since the accident. And so I pick up the phone, and I go to dial her number, and I don't know a single digit. And I sat there for 5 minutes trying to think, why don't I know my girlfriend's phone number? Why can't I call her? Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I have a girlfriend? When was our first date? When did we first kiss? And I started thinking of all these things. And it took me about 5 or 10 minutes before I realized that I had just imagined all of this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was so real to me. I was convinced that I was dating this girl. She actually is a real girl, and I liked her at the time, but we never went out.
You're not the first guy to have an imaginary girlfriend.
Yeah.
More common than you might realize.
Yeah, but this was...
Everybody in line for the Star Trek premiere had an imaginary girlfriend.
Yeah. But it was just such a real experience to me. It freaked me out when it happened. And ever since that day, I've been a lucid dreamer. And, I'm able to remember my dreams, and they all feel very real to me. And on a good night, I can actually take control of them. So sometimes, this is funny. I'll be at work, and I'll have a meeting, and my boss will say, "Hey, did you finish this last week?" And I sit there for a minute, and I say, yes, but I don't know if I did it in a dream or if I actually did it. That's how real, things are to me in dreams. And so I've had to really doubt my own mind because I don't often know what's real and what's not. Of course, if the dream has dinosaurs and aliens and stuff, then yeah, I know that.
Hey, why do you get to dismiss dinosaurs and aliens? Maybe we're the dream. Maybe you are so terrified of the Tyrannosaurus that's about to eat you that you're making all this up.
Yeah.
I've had a recurring dream about Velociraptors.
Well, I think you have a very interesting lesson for all of us, and that is that the brains are fallible. They're subject to making mistakes. We're not perfect, and I think that maybe your experience helped you see that in more stark terms.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
So my second experience was when I was 17, and I went camping with a bunch of friends of friends.
And Tyler, you're going to have to speed it up if you actually want to disagree with me when you're done with your experiences.
Okay. And this was a pretty shady group of people. I was somewhat uncomfortable around them because they did some immoral things that I didn't agree with. And I kind of imagined myself as like being this, I was pure and like I kind of, projected my spirit. Have you guys ever seen Dragon Ball Z? I know this sounds really dorky, but it's kind of like Dragon Ball Z, where they're powering up. It's kind of like that.
The imaginary girlfriend makes so much more sense now.
And since then, I've been able to reproduce this effect at will, and it's physiological. It's not just a feeling, because I feel something coursing through my bloodstream, and it causes me to get goosebumps. So I thought that maybe that is an experience that someone might have had, where they got goosebumps, and oh, it's God, making my hair stand up. Okay, so now on to the disagreement, Matt. In earlier episodes, you've said that you listed, I think, personal experience as one acceptable reason, in your opinion, for believing in a God. Am I right?
Kind of. And actually, I said something almost identical a few minutes ago. Then that is that if somebody has had a personal experience, that it may be true that their belief is then justified.
Okay. I don't really buy the personal experience argument, and here's why. Well, first of all, I can't draw a conclusion from someone else's personal experience about the existence of God or not, because that's going to happen between the person and the God or the voice in their head.
Right.
However, I can look at all the reported personal experiences and draw conclusions from that. I see that people have, personal experiences about God, about Yahweh, about Allah, about, all different gods. And so what you have to look at is, okay, so if one of these religions is true and one of these gods is real, what's with all these other people? They could all be lying, or they could all be schizophrenic, or they could just be mistaken about their conclusions from a certain experience. That
so far, we're in complete agreement.
Crap.
I agree, and I've said this from my point of view. Seeing this diverse range of claims of personal experience, to me, is evidence that the best possible explanation is that they are all wrong. But to the individual, that's what I mean when I say they may be justified. For example, if I'm sitting at home this evening after the show and after dinner, and there happens to be a God who exists, and he reveals himself to me and demonstrates that it's true, and I don't know specifically what that would entail in order to convince me that it was not a delusion or anything else, but if there was a God, certainly they'd be able to accomplish that much. Otherwise, there's not a lot of point in giving them the title. But if they convinced me, and then that was it, then the only thing I could ever do is say, this will never be justification for you, but I've had an experience that serves as justification for me. The difference is between that, and if it happened to me versus all the other people who think that it's happened to them, is that I'd never come on TV and tell somebody else that I think they should believe based on my experience. A revelation is necessarily first person, go read David Hume, and everything else is second hand and hearsay, and it can't possibly be justification. But I'm just saying, I don't think they're actually justified. I can't make an argument either way. But they may believe they're justified, and I'm open to the possibility that it did happen. That they would be justified.
I think the short version is that we can't argue with someone else's personal experience, right? I do think that you're right, though. The caller's right, though, in the sense of the aggregate, right? All these people who have had these revelations haven't really advanced the world very much. It's like, okay, well, so what?
and if you're one of those people, out there who have had some kind, if you think God talks to you, or you've had some kind of dramatic revelation that has convinced you, I don't think that one quite qualifies, but there are plenty of people out there that would. Then ask yourself this: why the hell are you so special? what about all the other people throughout history who have been desperately trying to find an answer to all of this, desperately seeking out a God, people who wanted nothing more than to be ministers or to fulfill those obligations, people who have studied the cosmos and peeked under every rock, people who have hit their knees and prayed for hours on end and asked God to reveal himself to them, and they get squat, and yet you get this special treatment. What the hell is so special about you? And the people who think that God grabbed the steering wheel to save them from being in an accident, what makes you so special? And why would you worship a God who seems so capricious about who he's going to reveal himself to? Doesn't he love everybody? Aren't we all entitled to these kind of experiences?
He's mysterious. That's the answer. He's mysterious. That's the rationalization.
Yeah, it's a big old mystery, and if you're comfortable with that, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Just wrapping up, so if I had a personal experience, I would immediately doubt it just because based on the quote experiences that I've had that have turned out to be false all the time. So that's all that I want to share with you guys.
Okay. See, and now I don't know, Tyler, because on the one hand, if you relayed one of your personal experiences to me, I'd immediately be doubtful because of your history, but because you're automatically going to be more skeptical of your beliefs or your experiences because of the problems you've had before, I might actually believe you more.
Right. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I'm not going to be dogmatic about it, but it's going to take more than one little thing happening to really convince me.
The tortilla's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So why don't you've got
Let me try to wrap this up.
Recaps, and
we're talking about godly societies. We've talked about sex. We've talked about things like murder rates and these sorts of things. What about intelligence and wealth and happiness? These are sort of some of the things that are kind of big general things. It turns out that wealth, for example, is negatively correlated with religious belief, and there's been a number of studies on that, including the Pew Global Attitudes study, and intelligence. That's another one where people who are more educated, intelligence may not be the right word. People who are more educated and more knowledgeable, I think, tend to be less believing, but you can find more about that. A lot of scientists tend to be non-believers.
I've never been a fan of using intelligent in that context, or saying people are dumb or stupid. There are plenty of really brilliant and smart Christians and theists and people of all different religious tribes.
Very capable folks.
I'll laud Ken Miller. I'm
Francis Call.
I'm not a
very intelligent guy. Right.
I am not more intelligent now as an atheist than I was when I was a Christian. I'm simply more knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. I've simply bothered to study things and think about things a little bit more rather than, I cracked more books than this one.
Right. Happiness is another one. It's kind of a mixed bag. Happiness is a mixed bag. We'll get into that a little bit. So it turns out there's mutual correlations between these things, right? If you're wealthy, you might have had more opportunities to go to college and these sorts of things. You might have a better education. If you're wealthy and intelligent, then you might have a lot more autonomy and be a happier person. So these things are kind of interrelated. Well, on the intelligence thing, I think that if you're able to think for yourself, if you're willing to think for yourself, and if you are knowledgeable about the other religions in the world and their claims, and if you're knowledgeable about the scientific claims that are being made and the scientific evidence behind that, you're going to be less religious. Because when you really do compare these things honestly, these things don't stack up. The religious claims don't stack up. So that's a very simple reason why I think intelligence is negatively, or intelligence and education is negatively correlated with religious belief. As far as wealth, I think that we have a situation where religions tend to prey on people who are down on their luck. They tend to go find those people because it's a good strategy. I've talked about this before. It's a good strategy. Bet on somebody or something when it's at its bottom, right? And then cash in as it goes up. And that's kind of what religions do. I think they go find people who are down on their luck, these sorts of things. And if you believe about this religion co-opting our breeding capabilities, which you have some skepticism about, that's fine. Then
I believe they co-opted.
Yeah. Then we have a situation where the religions are happy to have kids that are not very well educated. In fact, they might be easier to indoctrinate. So wealth and religion makes sense. Now, on happiness, we have two things I want to bring up. One is on Denmark. Denmark was claimed to be the world's happiest country, according to a survey done by the National Science Foundation. So it's not a slacky sort of survey. And they found out that the reason people were happy in Denmark. Oh, by the way, Denmark has the third highest population of atheists and agnostics of any country in the world.
And the New Era study says that Texas is awesome.
Okay.
20% more non-believers, atheist, agnostic, secular people in Texas now than 20 years ago.
All right.
Biggest change of any state.
Okay.
Just thought I'd point that out.
That's interesting. Okay.
So we can take credit for that, by the way. We've single-handedly...
We might have brought some folks in. I think
I would say that maybe it was, bringing more tech jobs to Austin so that you get people with higher education and
stuff.
Yeah.
So in Denmark, we have apparently happiness is very strongly associated with democracy, autonomy, free choice, social equality, and peace.
And weed.
I think you might be thinking of...
Hey.
Anyway.
I've gotten emails from Denmark before.
So why? So anyway, so Denmark has a lot of things going for it. It's very nice. So why in the world would the happiest country be a non-religious country if religion were such a great thing? Now on anxiety, that's another one that's kind of more interesting, and that is that apparently people who have religious beliefs may have a less anxiety. There's a study on that, and I would claim that this has to do with this false sense of security. I would claim that this is sort of a false thing.
If you don't feel responsible for anything that's going on around you, if it's all part of God's plan, if somebody's got your back, what the hell is there to feel anxious about?
Right.
It's we've talked about a million times before about this thing of guilt and pain. Guilt and pain are good things. Pain lets you know where not to what not to do again, and guilt does the same thing. And for religions to come in and steal that away from people, I find just colossally offensive and dehumanizing.
Right.
To turn people, I don't know how many people have seen it. I mentioned it on yesterday's On Profit, so I won't go into great detail, but there's a BBC documentary, or may not be BBC, but it's a UK documentary about Deborah 13. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it online. I recommend it, but if you're an emotional type, bring a box of Kleenex, and if you're people who are prone to being upset, you might not want to watch it, because I was pretty pissed.
What's it about?
A 13-year-old fundamentalist kid in the UK who's being homeschooled and brought up in a family of this, and who at the end of
so it's like Jesus camp in that respect?
In some aspects it was better, and in some aspects it was worse. It just drives me crazy to see people turn their kids into
little robots, huh?
Not even just robots. I mean, granted, she was robotic in spewing out nonsense from Way of the Master and whatever else, but at the very end of it, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but how can you ruin something like this any more than it already is? She's basically in tears and overwhelmed because we're all pitiful, worthless, wretched, vile sinners who deserve to be tortured forever in hell, including her. And yet she's been given this wonderful escape route
sort of thing.
And she just can't express how much that means to her. How dare you? I mean, let's give parents autonomy, and they can teach kids, by and large, whatever kind of crazy shit they want to. But if you got a 13-year-old who has no self-esteem, whose assessment of their life is that it's a big cesspool, undeserving and unworthy of appreciation or adoration, but Jesus likes her anyway, then you're a monster, and you're contributing to the problem. I don't care if you believe it, and if it's fine. I know there's plenty of moderate liberal Christians out there who don't believe in hell. Don't bother writing me about that. It's fine. Believe whatever you want. I know there are plenty of theists out there, Christians of different stripes, who don't teach their kids that. Good for you. You're still providing cover to those who do. by using the same name, the same labels, the same books, voting the same way, supporting the same people, and saying the same crap. You just don't follow through with it to the degree that the others do. Okay, I'm glad that you have some tinge of humanity left in you so that you don't want to destroy your kids, but you're still part of the problem. And the quicker you realize that, the quicker we can solve the damn problem and stop ending up with little kids, little girls who should be enjoying their childhood, who instead are these weepy little balls of goo with no self-value, whose only thought is, I need to tell more people about Jesus. Nothing else could possibly matter than me telling people about Jesus. It's sickening. It's depressing, and frankly, you better be glad I don't rule the world, because that would be one of the situations where I would yank the kids out from under the parents. And not too many places where I would cross over that line and step in. You know, keep your kids happy and healthy, teach them what they need to know to get by, and you and I got no problem. But
it is sad.
It's infuriating.
So this was like a full-length documentary, or
I think it's fairly short. It's like 45 minutes, or maybe an hour and some change. It was bad.
But, yeah, we saw some of that on the Jesus Camp, where these kids are getting
that was bad
indoctrinated.
too.
Yeah, it's just sad. And they were basically treated as tools. You know, you're going to go out and be the warriors for God, sort of thing.
Yeah,
jihadist for Jesus.
She goes to visit her brother. Just watch it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's sad.
Sad.
So, have you got anything else to hit?
I know that's it. I mean, I just, why would God make societies where the believers that are worse off than societies of non-believers? Why would God do that? That's
the key thing here. And by the way, when you're using God there, obviously we're talking about a broad range of God concepts. The thing that this Journal of Religious Studies thing, we've referenced this before. What it does show, it doesn't show that religion causes.
No causation implied.
There's no cause. It doesn't even say that religious eyes are necessarily going to be more this way, or that there's this enormously powerful correlation. What it does do is it takes every one of those self-righteous asshats who run around saying that everything that's wrong with society is because we've gotten away from God, and that if we would just get back to my particular religious views, the world would be a much, much better place. All of you are wrong. Yeah. There is no evidence, no correlation for religion improving the world around you. And there's negative evidence. If your religion were true, and if your claims were true, then you should be able to go find a little pocket of humanity that is practicing this where there's no problems at all. And yet, what do we find when we really dig and lift those rocks and find those little pockets of humanity? We find exactly what we'd expect. We find 50, 60-year-old men marrying 13-year-old girls so they can raise more kids. We find people who turn away from medicine, who's every one of these little factors that we're talking about, that's what we see in the pockets. The Bible Belt, the southern part of the United States, where things are supposed to be that much better, that's where these things are worse.
Yeah, divorce rates are higher in the South, too.
And divorce rates are higher among, I can't say Christians anymore. See, here's the thing. You quote a statistic, because there's more Christians than atheists in prison, and somebody comes up with something. Yeah, they're not true Christians. Well, the divorce rate among Christians is higher. Yeah, but those aren't true Christians. The true Christians are the ones who stayed married. Oh, well, thanks. And if they get divorced, then they're not true Christians? Yeah. And so the 25 years or so that I spent thinking I was a true Christian, now that I'm an atheist, I wasn't ever a true Christian? Yeah, that's right. Wow. I hear this all the time.
Yeah. It's a spin game, huh?
It's nuts. We got almost no time left, but I'm going to try and take some calls anyway. We've got Forrest in Springfield. You got about a minute, maybe.
Hello. So I guess you're done with your rant.
He's going to get a rant or two.
And I like it.
For sure. That's what they pay for. Or not.
I'm going to quote someone who's actually written on the, I don't know what you call it, but it's from Sabina, and she says sexual abstinence didn't work for Virgin Mary. Just saying. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yep.
Also, I do appreciate Don and Matt. I think you're doing a great job, and I understand about your godly societies. And I think that we need to remember, too, Jim Jones and Tim McVeigh and
I just don't like citing the extreme examples because it's not a fair assessment.
I do. Yeah.
I will say that you can get to those extremes, but it's not. There are bigger problems that actually affect all of us that come from people who would never go down the Jim Jones path.
Right. Now, I wanted to point out about the society that I do think our godly society hopefully is changing through science. We've got, unfortunately, Albert Einstein died in 1955, never was able to see the Earth from outer space, but we all can today. And then also, we finally have people going out there and saying how there is no evidence that Jesus ever existed. And I would love to hear you come on the show some more and show us just what evidences we have of Jesus.
We would ask for that a lot, the historicity of Jesus, and maybe...
It's important.
Yeah, maybe
it's
we
important because I used to be a fundie, and that shocked me, and I needed that shock.
Yeah,
and another thing...
It's worth addressing because it's played up as true and just de facto true without any question by guys like
and the evidence is pretty
and
flimsy.
McDowell.
Yeah, maybe we can.
And then the other thing is, did you know that our son is a third generation son?
Yes.
At least a third generation son, and that's something that's shocking too. Most people don't understand.
What's more shocking to me than the fact that it is a third generation son is the fact that we can find out.
Exactly.
We know enough to figure out what this process is in order to identify that our son is at least a third generation son.
Yep, we're
and I think that's awesome. But anyway, thanks for the great job you're doing. I know I only had a minute.
Thanks, Forrest.
Stuff in there. Okay, bye.
I appreciate it. And you there, Jay?
Yes, and you owe me a dinner for staying on so long. Anyway, hey.
If you come to Threadgills tonight, Jay, and I'll get you a dinner because you know what?
You gotta go say bye-bye.
I don't have time for you to tell the story that you want to tell, but call next week.
All right.
Thanks, Jay.
Behave yourself.
I always do, man.
Bullcorn, I know different, don't I?
Thanks, Jay.
All right, bye-bye.
And Susan, if you want to hang on until we're done with the show, I'll go ahead and hit that. There's one thing I wanted to do real quick. One of the people who's been on the show a number of times, who's an ACA member, a former board member, Mark Lowy. Some of you know one of his many causes is championing low-cost textbooks. And there's a bill that's been put forward by Garnet Coleman, a Democrat out of Houston. Now, this is relating to Texas. It's House Bill number 2959. I have no idea what the position of anybody out there is, and I'm not going to tell anybody what their position should be. But if you go and read it, you can also go to marklowy.org. It's marklowe.org. You can find out more about this initiative, find out if it's something you want to support, and read the bill. Yeah. We'll see you next week. Behave yourselves. There's the crew behind us. They always got our back.
Scary. Ooh. Yeah, they're a great bunch of folks.
Hey, Susan, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Thanks for waiting.
No problem. I've been watching on the Ustream, so I've been following even on the
Okay, so you can see us now. It's just like normal for you.
You get the bonus show.
Good.
But it's really distracting trying to watch you speak and also hear you on the phone at the same time. It's very difficult because of the delay. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to comment on an example of a religious faith group that explicitly did not encourage its followers to have children.
The Shakers?
The Shakers, yes, exactly, yeah. And they've pretty much died out as a result.
Yeah.
So, whether or not religions actually
religions
first has certainly bad for them not to.
There's certainly a benefit to encouraging your members to reproduce and stay within the faith. That I got no beef with at all.
Okay. So yeah, you're right. The Shakers are a good sort of counterexample, right?
Yeah, so that's all I want to say. So great show tonight.
Okay.
And
thanks a lot.
For next week.
All right. Thanks, Susan.
All right.
Whoops. You're kind of on the air on the after show.
Hello?
Hello.
We don't know
hello.
Who are you and where you're calling from?
I'm from Dallas.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, did y'all see Knowing?
No, and don't say anything.
See what?
Knowing.
Oh, the movie.
Oh, yeah, well, it had this sort of, it was a terrible movie, and it had this sort of...
Well, okay, then you can go ahead and give spoilers if it was terrible.
Yeah, well, it had this religious undertone that I've seen in a lot of movies recently, and it's like this scientist professor guy finds faith, and it was a bunch of crap, you know.
Okay. So it's the usual scientist finds faith because he can't explain something?
Yeah.
Thing? Yeah. Okay. That seems to be a common sort of idiom. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's all I wanted to talk about. It's just that archetype is bugging me.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. I love doing that. I'm sorry. He said that's all he wanted to talk about. I'm just having fun. He's not going to be mad.
Guy. Come on.
He's not going to come down and punch me in my fat face for Jesus. Who's this? You're on the after show.
Hey, it's Daniel. I'm calling back on my landline. Sorry I didn't make it in time for the show.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, hey, man. Just
So
wanted to say again.
remind us.
Yes.
Remind
you what?
Remind us what you were talking about. Because I'm over 40.
He's writing a book.
You're writing a book.
I'm writing a book that talks a little bit about kind of like the positive and negative effects of multiple types of belief. And in it, I do sort of have to admit, I do kind of let the religious people kind of have it in a sense, so that the readers who read it really do see some of the negative effects. And I use mirrors. I kind of make these stories. They are fictional, but they do kind of mirror reality in a way. And some of them are like kind of like direct copies and pastes with different characters who represent, figures in our reality. And I do kind of strip away the veil that religion is innocence.
Okay.
And that's my goal.
Hang on. Go close up real quick with that red thing because I think it looked like wings. So your goal is to use these stories to kind of let people
illustrate
see
points or like parables,
problems with religion.
It's a fictional story, and it is complete fantasy. And in it, there is science in it, for example, but it is a fantasy story. It is fictional, and I'm the god of that fictional universe. So I'll just play with it however I want. But the real importance of the story is that it shows certain things. And I use mirrors of literal reality within this fictional context. And the real goal is to at least open up people who are on the very, very far side. They're far gone. If I can at least get them to read the story and then talk about why these things are good and these things are bad, for example, to me or other people who have read the story or seen or whatever, it's supposed to open up a discussion because I think that other stories in the past, other authors rather, have tried to do this in the past. But I want to throw my own hat in the ring because I think that I can go into it to a level of depth and detail that will really hit the nail on the head. I hope. I'll try.
Well, I hope too.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you. What's the name of your book?
It's RX Angel, and the RX is kind of a shorthand I use for revolutionary. It's called Revolutionary Angel. I don't know how long it will take me to finish the book, but it's incredibly long and it's incredibly lengthy. I'm not going to get into huge details, but yes, I do kind of let religious people kind of have it in a way. Not extremely, but pretty much I kind of strip away this illusion that religion is innocent, because I have to share some disgust with some things that religion talks about.
No, we're not.
Honestly.
Hey, Daniel, I got to go, but thanks for calling in.
Thank you guys, and I love Muhammad, and I love you guys' show. I'm really grateful that you guys are out there doing this.
Well, good luck with the book. Let me know how it comes out. Yeah, since they've already taken it down, let's talk about what we want to do tonight at dinner. Maybe get something written up, and that way, because, I ad-lib the show, but if we're going to do a little promo piece on there, I'd rather know what the hell I'm going to say beforehand.
Okay, no problem.
I think you could slip it in right before. We going to take more calls, or we're done?
I could slip it in. Hey, who's this? You're on the after show.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Don.
Oh, my gosh, it's George.
My favorite caller. Yay.
Hey,
Hey, guys. Great show as usual.
Did you call to settle this dispute between us?
No, actually. Although I am writing my own book, it's got kittens in it.
Oh.
I'm trying. Well, I'm going to be the anti-Jeff D. and try to make atheism as cuddly as kittens and just as approachable.
Then you and I will probably not be friends for as long as I thought we were.
But we'll have kittens.
How do those kittens taste?
Hang on, I'll check. Anyway, Don, I wanted to let you know that regarding the earlier note about the impediments to medical progress.
Yes.
As a historical note, no less than Leonardo da Vinci in 1514 was brought in front of a Vatican trial because of his anatomical drawings.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was. The accusations were necromancy and witchcraft.
Oh, boy.
And a great deal of the material was destroyed on the order of the Vatican, absolutely priceless and irreplaceable.
What a tragedy!
I think the Pope was just mad that the man had the bigger penis than he did.
Either that, or they found out in the worst way that his early parachute design didn't work.
Yeah, no, that's a real tragedy. Because what a brilliant man.
Okay, well, look, these kittens aren't going to base themselves, so I got to get out of here.
Okay.
Knock it out, George. Talk to you later.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.
That's it. Turn me off the inner tubes. Go outside, read a book, do something. See you next week.